Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining me to talk about Penn State versus Michigan in our game preview of the week, it's our host, Mr. Logan Landers. How's it going, man?
What's going on, Jeremiah? Talking some amazing football here in college. Week 7, two top 10 teams going at it. It's going to be a great matchup. Can't wait to dive more into it.
Absolutely. And for everybody watching our live broadcast or listening on our podcast, thank you. You are the reason that we do this every single week. You're the reason that we keep growing so strong. And we definitely suggest you tell your friends and family and colleagues all about us and tell them to like, subscribe, and make sure to hit that notification bell so that you can know every time we drop a new episode, which is pretty much all the time, pretty much every day, actually. All right, Mr. Logan Landers, we're into NCAA Week 7. What do we have to look forward to from Penn State versus Michigan?
Well, let's talk about these Penn State Nittany Lions, right? Currently in, like I said, in the top 10, looking good. Coming off a bye week, so they're well rested. Everyone's relaxed, ready to go for this big game here in Ann Arbor. Looking at Penn State, you got to start with quarterback Sean Clifford. In the last game against Northwestern, solid 10 of 20, 140 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Let's get those numbers up a little bit more. I understand the rain was a factor, but hey, you got to do what you got to do against this Michigan Wolverines team. But the real strength of this Nittany Lion offense, it's got to be the running game, man. This team can run the ball like no other. As a team, 58 rushes for 220 yards and 1 score. That's thanks to the trio of Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen, and Kavion Lee. All those gentlemen putting in some good work, all even pretty much around the board in terms of their numbers. They are a force to be reckoned with. The receiving core, you have Parker Washington, who's the main guy, 4 grabs for 73 yards, was leading the team. But they're still trying to get that receiving core figured out. They still lost, like I said, Jahan Dotson in the draft. So they're still trying to figure out who's going to be that number one. As for now, it's a bunch of guys who are just kind of getting spread even throughout the team, along with Britton Strange and Mitchell Tinsley, who are in the mix as well. A couple of fumbles, like I said, the weather conditions were not very pretty in that game against Northwestern. A lot of rain. They had 4 fumbles as a team. You can't have that. You cannot have that against this Michigan Wolverines team, or else you will be eaten alive. It's going to be tough. But the real strength of this team, I think, for Penn State, it's got to be the defense, man. This defense has looked really good all throughout the year. The only exception was week 1 against Purdue. They gave up 31 points. But other than that, they've looked really good. Only allowed less than 21 points the rest of the ball games they've been in. And in the game against Northwestern, like I said, they only gave up 7 points. That's good. That is very good. PJ Mustipher led the way, looking really good this year, by the way. 8 total tackles led the way. 1 sack as a team thanks to Nick Tartburton. And they had 5 tackles for loss with an interception from Jair Brown. So the real thing for Michigan or for Penn State to win this ball game, solid play from Sean Clifford. Just keep it clean. Do whatever you can with your feet. Just keep it good in the pocket. Get that running game going. That's going to be the big key. Can they get the running game going? And have a stout defense. It's going to be a tough matchup against this Michigan Wolverines squad. But let's talk about them, man. Like I said, perfect on the year, 6-0 in the Big Ten. Number 1, looking good. They beat Indiana 31-10 this past week. Looking a little bit closer, quarterback J.J. McCarthy, 28-36 passing, 304 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. Really good. But we all know the real star of this offense is Blake Corum. 25 carries for 124 yards. That's just pretty basic for him. That's just a weekly stat at this point, is him getting well over 100 yards. He is an absolute beast at the running back position. And also he got a score in the game as well, with a 5-yard average. So looking really good as a squad, 40 carries for 165 yards. The receiving game, Ronnie Bell led the way, 11 catches for 121 yards. And Luke Schoonmaker behind him, 9 grabs for 67. Watch for those guys having another big day. As for the defense, like I say, only give up 10 points to this Indiana team. They've been very good as well on defense with this entire team. They've only gave up a max of 27 points against Maryland a few weeks ago. But, man, it's going to be a fun game to watch. Michael Barrett led the way with 7 tackles. Junior Colson behind him as well with 7. And Jeremiah, 7 must be the magic number here in Michigan because they had 7 sacks as a team. That is very tough to do. I don't care who you play. 7 sacks as a team. very good, and it was spread even throughout. Everyone had one, it felt like. Even the water boy probably got in there. As a team, they had 10 tackles for loss, one INT from Rod Moore, and they just dominated the Hoosiers. So looking at this team, this battle here, it's going to be a tough, just grind matchup. Two quarterbacks who are going to have to just keep it clean, keep it good looking. Two amazing running games, I think, and very stout defenses. But I think for overall, my prediction in this ball game, and Michigan, Penn State, the battle of the Big Ten, who's going to come out on top? I got to go, Jeremiah. I have to go with the Michigan Wolverines staying undefeated in this one. Like I said, no knock to Penn State. They've done great, but I just got Michigan being a little bit stronger in this one. So for my final prediction, I'm going with the Michigan Wolverines 31 and the Penn State Nittany Lions 20 is my final score in this upcoming ball game.
Wow. That's incredible. I do think this is going to be a huge matchup. I was over on Twitter just yesterday, and I was seeing so much buzz about these two teams and just wondering if Michigan's going to keep on doing what they do or if Penn State's going to really put it in for this one. So, yeah, thank you so much for that. Well, what do you think? We want to hear from you. Please put in the comments, what do you think the final score will be? And what do you think the keys to the game are for Michigan and for Penn State to keep on rocking in this season? We want to hear from you. So tell us over on YouTube or tell us on Facebook. And you can even go over to our LinkedIn and see all of our great podcast information. But if you're not listening to our podcast, we need to tell you about it. We put our podcast out on every single platform. I personally listen over on Spotify, but a lot of our audience listens on Apple Podcasts. But then still some of our other audience listening on Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Overcast, Amazon, or so many other great platforms. So wherever you want to listen to 100 Yards of Football, we are there for you. Just look for our football on the 50-yard line there, brought to you by the Believe Podcast Network. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Logan Landers, for that great NCAA Week 7 preview of the Penn State Nittany Lions versus the Michigan Wolverines. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and we'll be right back with another live episode. Stay tuned.